I mean, it was a completely different sort of thing, wasn't it?
They were rioters, though, weren't they?
They were rioters.
They flipped over a police car. They flipped over a police car. They torched a bus, and the police ran away. That was the difference.
We know that all sorts of people riot, and we know that the left have rioted. I was specifically talking about. I was specifically talking about the people who thinking that a Muslim might have killed those children, went to try and set fire to a mosque. I would call that far right.
And do you know who started that? Do you know who the gentleman was who was charged now with cyber terrorism for actually being the person who started off that entire vicious false rumour online? Was actually a Pakistani man. Is he far right?
Right. Well, I think anybody who starts...
Well, my point is that there's this narrative to which all of these data points must fit. And your point saying that Keir Starmer has been incredibly firm in wanting to put violent criminals in jail with regards to the quote-unquote far-right riots. And by the way, let me just be really clear. I and the Reform Party absolutely condemn violence in all of its forms.
Right,
and those are abhorrent. But let me be clear. Let me finish my point with respect. In that instance, for those particular people, Keir Starmer and this government, and indeed appears to be the judicial system, are perfectly happy to throw the book at them, performative, BBC live-streamed trials. For people from other groups, totally the opposite. The police essentially fled the scene in Hare Hills, leaving the populace to fend for themselves. A police car was flipped, a bus was torched, other cars were torched. It was a godsend and very fortunate that there weren't serious injuries or murders in that situation. You see the way that the police have policed, for example, the Notting Hill Carnival. I mean, the reports of over 50 police officers were attacked during that festival. The reports coming back from the police read more like something out of a report from a war zone than they read a festival. So there's a totally different way that our police and that the government and indeed now our judicial system are approaching these different people. And that's the fundamental point that I'm making.
Well, I mean, and look at the Just Stop Oil people who've been jailed for 5 years.
Why? Why were they jailed for 5 years?
They were jailed for 5 years for eco-terrorism, basically. Yep. Right? They were disrupting. What I'm saying...
No distinction, but anyway, carry on.
But you talk about two-tier policing. What I'm saying is the Just Stop Oil people are not on the right, OK? And they got jailed. That's what I'm saying is that everybody's getting it, right? What
about the fella that chucked that stuff at Nigel Farage?
He's got a suspended sentence.
He got a suspended sentence for throwing a cup of cement at one of our political leaders during a general election campaign. And I will tell you, someone who works with Nigel every single day, there is no braver politician in this country. And anyone less brave, I can tell you, would have withdrawn themselves a long time ago from the political landscape in this country. It's actually quite terrifying how the judicial system, this actually isn't policing, this is actually the judicial system, which in some ways is even more of a concern because it's obviously independent. The judicial system has essentially said that our political leaders are no longer off limits. And that, I think, is a terrifying thing, given the violence that has been inflicted on political leaders in this country in recent times.
It's always been like that. I mean, the person who threw an egg at John Prescott did not get jailed, right? I mean,
No, hang on. Right. Sorry, I feel like I'm cutting in all the time and I don't want to. We're in a political time.
Buckle up, because we're diving straight into the chaos that's swallowing this country and half of Europe while our leaders clutch their pearls and scream far right at anything that moves. Keir Starmer's been jet-setting across Europe, hugging every woke progressive leader he can find. Because apparently the biggest threat to civilization isn't knife crime exploding on our streets? Isn't prison so full they're turfing out machete murderers early? No, it's populism and the scary far right. Give me strength. Let's get one thing crystal clear. In 2025, if you believe borders should exist, if you think violent thugs belong behind bars, instead of back on the streets in 6 months, if you dare say British citizens should come first, congratulations. You're now a far-right extremist according to the Westminster bubble. That's not hyperbole. That's the new rules. Look across the Channel, Germany, France, Italy. Normal people, everyday voters are waking up, looking at their neighborhoods changing overnight, watching their daughters scared to walk home, seeing infrastructure collapse under endless mass migration, and they're voting for parties that actually promise to stop the madness. And what do our elites call it? Fascism. Dangerous nationalism. Far right. Meanwhile, actual violent criminals are getting early release because the prisons are rammed, and one of the monsters who hacked a 14-year-old boy to death with machetes is about to walk free. Tell me again who the real extremists are. Remember this summer? When working-class communities finally snapped after yet another horrific attack, and suddenly the full might of the state came down like a ton of bricks. Dawn raids on 11-year-olds. 2-minute trials. Years inside for throwing a bottle. Two-tier policing? It's not even hidden anymore. Flip a police car in certain postcode? Police vanish. Torch a bus in another? Barely a slap on the wrist. Attack a politician from the wrong party with a cup of wet cement? Suspended sentence, see you later, mate. The message is screaming loud, some violence matters, some violence. Doesn't, and the cherry on top? The spark that lit the whole powder keg this summer. The vile fake rumor that sent mobs onto the streets was started by some guy in Pakistan, not Tommy Robinson, not the EDL, not your average reform voter having a pint. But sure, keep telling us it's all white working class, gammon grandparents who are the real danger. Here's the conclusion. We've reached tonight, the one they'll never say on the mainstream. The establishment has lost control. They've opened the doors so wide, broken the social contract so completely, that millions of ordinary Brits no longer feel this is their country. And instead of fixing the actual problems,